You're listening to the St John's Diamond Creek podcast. This episode presented by Senior Minister Tim Johnson.
Hi, I'm Lockie, and I'll be reading today from Isaiah chapter 11, verses 1 through to 10. This is a branch from Jesse. A shoot will come up from the stump of Jesse. From his roots, a branch will bear fruit. The Spirit of the Lord will rest on him, the Spirit of wisdom and of understanding, the Spirit of counsel and of might, the Spirit of the knowledge and fear of the Lord, and he will delight in the fear of the Lord. He will not judge by what he sees with his eyes or decide by what he hears with his ears, but with righteousness he will judge the needy. With justice he will give decisions for the poor of the earth. He will strike the earth with the rod of his mouth. With the breath of his lips he will slay the wicked. Righteousness will be his belt, and faithfulness the sash around his waist. The wolf will live with the lamb, the leopard will lie down with the goat, the calf and the lion and the yearling together, and a little child will lead them. The cow will feed with the bear, their young will lie down together, and the lion will eat straw like the ox. The infant will play near the cobra's den, and the young child will put his hand into the viper's nest. They will neither harm nor destroy on all my holy mountain, for the earth will be filled with the knowledge of the Lord, and the waters cover the sea, as the waters cover the sea. And in that day, Root of Jesse will stand as a banner for the peoples. The nations will rally to him, and his resting place will be glorious. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God.
Do you hope for justice? Melanie endured years of emotional abuse in her marriage before she finally left. But her husband had arranged the finances in such a way that she had very little to live on. When it came to the court case, he employed a high-powered team of the best lawyers who deliberately dragged the proceedings out so that the costs escalated. She invested all she had in paying lawyers until her money ran out, and then she had to rely on legal aid. The court decided in his favour, and she lost everything, including custody of the kids. The injustice of it sticks in her throat. Do you hope for justice? That example of injustice could be multiplied. The abuse survivor who courageously presses charges against their abuser, but the police can't gather enough evidence to take the matter to court. The elderly man who gets scammed online and loses his life savings. The South Sudanese family at an Anglican church here in Melbourne who learned that their extended family back home, 73 people, have all been massacred. The injustice of it sticks in our throats. Do you hope for justice? This Advent, we're focusing on the theme of hope. Last week, Maddie spoke on the hope for peace. And this week, we're thinking about the hope for justice. What hope is there for justice when all around us and all around the world we see so much injustice? It seems hopeless. And so we immerse ourselves in the book of Isaiah, a prophet who was writing at a time that seemed hopeless and where injustice was rife. And yet this prophet speaks about hope for the future, a hope that we too can take hold of. Let me set the scene for our Bible passage from Isaiah 11. You need to imagine in your mind a picture of utter destruction, devastation everywhere, acres and acres of old-growth forest cut down and destroyed, beauty turned to ugliness, the safe haven for wildlife obliterated, the life and the energy of the trees killed. All that is left is silence and the aftermath of destruction. It's that image that Isaiah uses to describe what will happen to the nation of Israel. Isaiah's writing in about 740 BC, with the powerful nation of Assyria looming on the doorstep. In Isaiah 6, he describes what will happen. Cities will lie ruined without inhabitants. Houses will be left deserted. Fields will be ruined and ravaged. It'll be like a great oak tree cut down, leaving only a dead stump. In Isaiah 10, Assyria are described as the axe which will chop down the nation of Israel, because the nation is riddled with injustice and the oppression of the poor. But when the Assyrians are finished, there's nothing left. The buildings are destroyed, the people gone, the beauty turned to ugliness, leaving nothing but death and destruction in their wake. And this prophecy came to pass in 722 BC when the Assyrians wiped out the northern part of Israel. And a similar fate awaited the southern part of the country known as Judah when in 587 BC the Babylonian army swept their axe through, destroying even the temple, smashing down the city of Jerusalem and taking the people into exile. At the end of all this destruction, in the middle of this field of felled trees, there's an ancient stump. It's the stump of the royal family, the stump of the house of Jesse, the father of the great King David, from whom the royal line descended. But now the monarchy is gone, it's cut down and destroyed along with the nation. And with its destruction, it seems too that God's promises to King David are dead as well. The promise that his son would rule forever, that God would establish his throne forever. That promise too is dead, nothing but a lifeless stump. What hope could there possibly be? But the hope comes in Isaiah 11:1. A shoot will come up from the stump of Jesse. From his roots, a branch will bear fruit. Isaiah says, look more closely at this dead stump of Jesse's family, because life will spring from amidst the destruction. Hope will arise. A new king will be born. This is a beautiful image of new beginnings that God will bring even out of this destruction. King David was the greatest of Israel's kings, but his descendants had fallen into idolatry, corruption, and injustice, leading to God's judgment and the destruction described above. But now we're promised a shoot will come, a shoot from the stump of Jesse, a new David, if you like, one in whom God's promises will be fulfilled. God can bring life even in the midst of death. A stump is dead, it's cut off, the life has gone out of it, but new life here sprouts from this stump. God is the God of the living, not the dead. And even when it looks like his promises have failed, when all is lost, time and time again, he surprises us and consistently follows through. And this image also reminds us of the vulnerability of this new beginning. Right? A shoot is so meagre and fragile, it could be snapped off with ease. And it's a wonderful description of the way that this prophecy was fulfilled in the birth of Jesus. Jesus, the shoot from the stump of Jesse, was born as a fragile baby, a vulnerable life held in his mother's arms, a shoot that seemingly could have snapped with ease. King Herod tried to do exactly that, to snap off the shoot before it could grow. Yes, this branch will grow and bear fruit, but it starts small, it starts vulnerable, it starts insignificant. God defies the ways of power and chooses to bring his great king into the world in poverty and weakness as a helpless baby. The rest of the passage in Isaiah 11 fills out the details about what the shoot of Jesse will be like and what the outcome of his rule will look like. Here's what the shoot of Jesse will be like. We see it in verses 2 to 5. Firstly, he'll be filled with the Spirit of God. The Spirit of the Lord will rest on him, the Spirit of wisdom and of understanding, the Spirit of counsel and of might, the Spirit of the knowledge and fear of the Lord, and he will delight in the fear of the Lord. So 4 times in one verse we're told that this person will be guided by God's Spirit. And the impact of God's Spirit in his life will be evident. Wisdom and understanding will permeate his very being. Then because he has such wisdom, such knowledge, such understanding, he'll be able to make right decisions. He'll be able to act with justice, verses 3 and 4. He will not judge by what he sees with his eyes or decide by what he hears with his ears, but with righteousness he will judge the needy. With justice he will give decisions for the poor of the earth. Now maybe that seems a bit strange at first. I mean, don't we want a judge to use their eyes and their ears as they make their judgments? You do need to gather information so that you know the truth. But the point here is that there's a limitation in our knowledge, and our sense data isn't enough amidst complex matters of justice to be able to gather everything that we need to make the right decision. I remember sitting at a table in a coffee shop with a senior minister that I worked for years ago, and he was slumped over with the weight of responsibility as he had to make a judgment on a matter. And I remember him picking up different items on the table, a cup, a sugar bowl and a saucer. And he said to me, Tim, this group says that this is the truth, and this group says that this is the truth, and then this group says this. What am I supposed to do? If you're a parent of children, you know this, right? There's a fight that happens and you get asked to make a judgment for them. But each child has a different version of the story. He said this, but she did that. And getting to the bottom of it is extremely difficult. Judges in court who have to make decisions where the stakes are even higher have an even tougher job. Without overarching knowledge of all the factors involved, of what's true and what's false, what motives are involved, making righteous and faithful judgments is near impossible. But this Spirit-empowered king, this all-wise shoot of Jesse, will be able to do it, we're told. He won't be just relying on what he sees and hears. His knowledge will run so deep that righteousness, doing relationships utterly rightly, and faithfulness, utter trustworthiness and dependability will be seen in the judgments that he makes. He'll have particular concern for the poor and the needy. He won't be wishy-washy and a pushover, but he will act with true justice. And his words of judgment will have absolute power, verse 4. He will strike the earth with the rod of his mouth. With the breath of his lips, he will slay the wicked. See, true justice requires judgment. It requires punishment of evil. It needs to protect the vulnerable from the abuses of the powerful. It needs to counter corruption through truth and integrity. These powerful descriptions of this great king take us beyond, I think, what we see even in the best of human rulers. It points us towards the sort of judgments that God himself makes. Only he has the depth of knowledge. Only he is omniscient, all-knowing, and so can judge rightly. So again, in the person of Jesus, we see the fulfillment of this prophecy. The Gospels speak of Jesus as one empowered completely by the Spirit of God. When you listen to the teaching of Jesus, when you listen to the wisdom that flows from his mouth, when you observe the way that Jesus interacts with the vulnerable, the sick, the needy, when you see the judgments that he makes, particularly the way that he challenges the powerful and his courage in opposing corruption, you see lived out in this person of Jesus the promise of this passage. Now, if you're with us online today and you haven't wrestled with the person of Jesus, why not read through one of the Gospels, one of the accounts of Jesus' life, and see Jesus for yourself? Why don't you get in touch with us here at St. John's, and we would love to send you a copy so that you can see for yourself what Jesus is like and compare what he does with what is promised here. Look at the strength, the wisdom, the integrity, and the compassion of Jesus, which leap out of the pages of the Gospels. Here we see what a true king and a judge should be like. We see what a life empowered by God's Spirit looks like with flesh on. In a world crying out for justice, we see what the perfect judge will be like. It's not soft and gentle, though it is compassionate and fair. It's truthful, wise, knowledgeable, faithful, and just. The sort of ruler that the world needs in order to put things to right, to ensure that everyone, and especially the most vulnerable, are treated with dignity and respect. In him, there is a hope for true justice. And that's what we get as the outcome of this king's rule. Verses 6 to 10 describe an idealized future which comes as the result of this king's rule. We see there is peace and harmony amongst normally warring species of animals: wolf and lamb, leopard and goat, calf and lion, cow and bear, child and snake, under the rule of this king. There's no place for violence, verse 9. They will neither harm nor destroy on all my holy mountain. Coupled with peace and with harmony will be the knowledge of God. Not the sort of knowledge that is useful for passing exams, facts and details, but this is speaking about intimate, personal, relational knowledge, knowing and being known completely and deeply. The end of verse 9 reads, "For the earth will be filled with the knowledge of the Lord as the waters cover the sea." It'll be all pervasive. It'll fill every part of the world, every person. So from this spirit-empowered shoot of Jesse, who has deep knowledge of God, this knowledge of God will be spread to others. We can know God through him. Intimacy and knowledge of the very God who made us comes through the loving rule of this king. He draws us into relationship and to an ideal, hope-filled future. As our passage concludes in verse 10, we see the root of Jesse, as he's described there in that verse, standing as a banner for the peoples. This is a rallying point, gathering people of every nation, tribe, and tongue to himself, gathering them into relationship, gathering them into a place of rest, gathering them into a glorious future under his perfect rule. It's a stunning picture. From that initial image that I gave you, that image of death and destruction, through the tenuous and fragile emergence of a shoot from the dead stump, we come to this stunning future rule of peace, justice, and harmony for the whole world and its peoples. You may be familiar with the song, O Come, Emmanuel, which uses different names for Jesus drawn from the prophecies of Isaiah. One of the verses says, O come thou rod of Jesse free, thine own from Satan's tyranny. From depths of hell thy people save, and give them victory over the grave. Rejoice, rejoice, Emmanuel shall come to thee, O Israel. This verse and the title, Rod of Jesse, comes from this chapter. It comes directly from Isaiah 11. And as we sing that song during the season of Advent, we sing it with a dual focus. In one sense, what we do as we sing is we place ourselves in the mindset, the time frame of Isaiah and the people of his time. People who were waiting, hoping, and longing for a king to come. So we sit with them and look forward to celebrate the first advent of Jesus, to celebrate his coming as a baby at Christmas time. And knowing what we know, that this king has come, we can rejoice in his spirit-filled life and teaching. We can rejoice that he came to save people from sin through his death in our place on the cross. We can rejoice in his victory over death by his resurrection, that he is alive today. We can rejoice that the Spirit-filled King has poured out the Holy Spirit to his followers, empowering us for life and witness to him. And yet amidst this rejoicing, we're also still waiting. We're also still hoping. We still sing those words with desperate longing. O come, Emmanuel. O come, Rod of Jesse. We're still waiting and hoping for the completion of his rule. We're still waiting and we're hoping for the lion to lie down with the lamb. We're still waiting and we're hoping for the knowledge of God to flood the whole world. We're still waiting and hoping for all the nations to gather around Jesus and enjoy his rest. We're still waiting and hoping for the second advent, the second coming of Jesus, when he will come as the judge of the world, when the hidden truths, the hidden corruptions are exposed for what they are, and when our hope for justice is finally fulfilled.
Thanks for joining us. If you'd like to subscribe to this podcast, you can do so in Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts from. Just search for St. John's, Diamond Creek.